Well, hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hello.
Welcome to Some Guys Talking. I am your host, Brian Holler. I'm along with my wonderful host, Aaron Washington. Aaron Washington, how are you today, sir?
I am doing fantastic. I am doing excellent. It's a beautiful day here, and I'm very excited to have my partner and friend, Allen Hoffmann, on the show today. Very excited.
Yay! Thank you for joining us, Allen. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. We just popped 3 different autoflowers, and I walked in there this morning, checked out the tent, and you're always worried when the seed's there, is it going to spawn? And they're both standing up straight. It's like, yes, successful germination. Let's go.
Love it. Always love to hear about plants and flowers hitting the next stage. Getting that much closer to where you need them to go. Of course, I have a feeling that might be a theme of this conversation today. Anyhow, thank you for joining us on the Beard Bros Media Network. You can find Some Guys Talking and a bunch of other amazing shows brought to you on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific. So thank you for joining us. And one of these great episodes is going to be with our friend Allen Hoffmann right here of Rooted Intellect and all sorts of things. Allen, thank you for joining us. And I'm glad to hear your plants are rocking.
Thanks, man. It's like I said, gardeners, they always struggle with certain moments in gardening.
Right.
And the big anxiety is like when you plant a clone or you plant a seed, and then there's anxiety of like, is it going to take? Is it going to thrive? Right. And then you watch them struggle their way up, and then it's like, yes, they're entering veg stage. Let's go.
Yep. We're doing the things. Yep. Yeah. I can't help but think of businesses in the space in the same fashion. Bootstrapping a company, which is something that I'm sure we'll get to talk to you about today as we learn about your journey. What we like to do is sort of tell us where you are now, and then we backtrack and we trace back to get you back to where you are now. So basically, introduce yourself to the folks if you could, and talk a little bit about what you do right now.
Right on. So I'm Allen Hoffmann. I'm the founder of Rooted Intellect. We're a direct-to-consumer gardening products company that came about through some interesting circumstances. The development of our AI construct Phoristus with one of my partners, Joseph, and the invention of the Bloom Carousel, which is a rotating trellis that gives you 360-degree access to your plants while they're in a 2x2 tent.
Yep.
And they're engineered to fit in like 4x4s and 8x4s. Our mission is to make gardening easy, accessible, and successful for everybody.
Yep.
And we do that through reproducible methods. We keep it as simple as we can while still achieving good results. And then we publish all of that content to TikTok and YouTube so people can reference the material readily. Obviously, we can show more on YouTube.
Sure.
If you want to get like a shot of my plants in the tent, all bloom carouseled up, latent flower, that's where you'll find it.
Nice.
And then we host our AI on Discord, so anybody who is having trouble with their plants can come and get help 24/7.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things about the entire business is that whole lane there. If you wouldn't mind, like Aaron or Aaron, you can both describe it, but if you could talk a little bit more about like why that's such a cool thing for home growers to have an AI enhanced Discord channel.
So home gardening is not a complex process, but there are a lot of challenges that can come up. And when you need help immediately.
That's right.
Nobody wants to be waiting around for somebody to answer why the mess on the top of their plants is actually a rampant spider mite infestation.
Right.
Right.
Or something. Yes, there could be a million different things like why is it growing this way? Or how come it's not popping here? Or why are we not doing this? Right.
Exactly. What are these spots? Is this powdery mildew? Is this a nutrient deficiency?
I wouldn't know. I'd be at my bloom carousel just going, what the hell? I don't know. Help me, please. So.
And you won't get that answer just really quickly. You won't get it unless it's deemed important enough, Allen.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. There are some communities out there, and I'm calling out some of y'all, who run communities of gardeners who will denigrate people for their questions being beneath the skill level, or will try to control the paradigm of like what they're growing. Everybody should only grow this way, right?
Yeah.
My AI is really agnostic to what methods you're using. It doesn't care if you are the worst gardener on earth who has caused a rampant spider mite infestation all on your own,
right?
Who has burned the hell out of your plants trying to deal with it. It will help you. You can ask it questions all day long because it doesn't care, right?
No.
It's never going to judge you for the questions you're asking or the situation you're in.
Well, for me, just from a functional standpoint, it's super cool. Good.
And it's really cool just that, you know, every bit, because our thought on this is that every question deserves an answer. It's not, oh, your question is too simple or too, like, it doesn't warrant the time. And that's the idea with Phrisis, that literally every question warrants an answer, a thoughtful answer, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, so whether it's you fed your plant too much and you burned it, whatever, you can literally load that picture in and say, hey, what's wrong with my plant?
Yep.
Alan?
And then, right? And like, hey, what do I need to do tomorrow to, you know, make sure that I'm, you know, pushing things along correctly? Oh, no problem. Yeah. Right.
Now let's talk about Phrystis. It's
Sure.
named after Theophrastus, the father of botany. It exists for one purpose, to help gardeners with their problems 24/7. I built it to end the gatekeeping of information around gardening.
You know what's interesting is people don't know that exists.
Yeah.
And people are like, that's a thing? Yep.
It absolutely is.
Uh-huh.
And what I've seen in the year and a half we've been running the service is that people come and go as their learning curve catches up, right? It's kind of like an educational opportunity, because Phrystis is trained to increase the complexity of the answers based on how complex your questions get. So as you learn, it pushes you further, and then you learn more and it pushes you further. And you go from, I don't know anything about plants, to, I don't really need its help anymore, but I'm going to check in periodically because I've got this funky thing I wanted to look at.
Yep. That's nice. And you're learning, of course. And that's really the key, you know. It is pretty interesting how many people probably are turned off by that, or they get interested and then they run up into a sort of a people who are maybe doing that, or a situation where they're doing that, and it just turns them off on it, you know.
Yeah. I would say that some people, you know, are going to love AI or not.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay, because the service is there for free. We offer a freemium model, and it doesn't bother me if people use it or not. You know, if people come or go. The point is to make the service available 24/7, so that anybody who does need it and is cool with engaging in AI can learn just how well trained it is. They talk about AI agents a lot these days, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that what's going to emerge over time is there's a really big difference between a well-tuned AI construct and one that's just slapped together.
Right. Yeah, that's what people are starting to see now. You can tell the difference between sort of this sort of hack job used to like AI versus a really purposeful, meaningful way to sort of use it. I think a lot of people don't understand like the full sort of capabilities, you know, or what it's really meant to enhance. So they do things for like short-term gain, but really it's about like using someone strategically to help you build and strategize and grow. And, you know, I look at it, AI as like maybe a key part of a team, like market research or deep diving, or helping me source information to, you know, sort of put together a plan that I'm thinking about doing, or, you know, things like that. And I think that's an interesting, God, that could be a whole other conversation, I'm sure, for us all right here. I don't want to go too far into the like ethics and AI, but ultimately, you know, one thing that I think it is super helpful for is teaching, right? Learning, putting in inputs and receiving the next steps that you need to do, especially for things that you already know that you're like behind the curve on. Like for me, if I started gardening today, it'd be super helpful for there to be an AI tool like you talked about. I am not a green thumb. I'm not, even though I've been in the business, I know a lot of stuff.
A free AI tool.
Right. I'm not your guy who is going to just be like, like Bill and Jeff are like, oh my God, I'm not talking. I mean, I work with growers, right? Like founders of the business are like proper, very knowledgeable about all of this. So I know what it's like to be around really high talented people like yourself, Alan, who, you know, and so for me, I'm like, well, geez, I'm so far behind that, you know, like, you know, like it would be cool to have help to get sort of at least in the vicidity, you know what I mean? So.
Oh yeah. And
that's why I tend to start my grow, because I know someone's going to say, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. But Alan, go ahead, bud.
I had one of my subscribers. So like I said, we offer a freemium service. At the subscription tier, we offer a higher tier of AI.
Sure.
And it has extra bells and whistles. It's got more logic to it.
Yep.
And it's in a private thread. So like the free channel is what you call one shot.
Yeah.
It only takes the information within that prompt and gives you instructions and runs with it, right? In our subscriber tier, the AI gains contextual memory.
Yeah.
And so it can follow not only your questions, but what it's told you to do.
Yeah.
And
And
that
it'll remember
really-
historically what you've been basically talking about. And so it learns along with you about your
Exactly.
company and you and everything like that. Yeah, that's, I think, the main difference between like the paid ChatGPT and the non-paid ChatGPT.
It's a good analogy because our construct does run locally and we run local AI, but we do farm out some logic to like OpenAI for like image recognition,
Sure.
right? Because
Which helps. You know, it helps with the free version for everybody, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Our free version can do images and it can process text files and spreadsheets like .csvs.
yep.
And it can read annotations on an image. So I've seen some people just do simple thing. Here's a picture of my plant. What's wrong with my plant?
Yeah.
And for Rice, this is trying to give you like a very specific kind of answer. Here, go check these 5 things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I have people go, well, here's 8 annotated images of my garden. Here's my grow log with my feed schedule. I'm noticing this on one of these plants. I've already checked for bugs. What do you think is going on? And it's able to drill through all of that data and go, oh, you've got nutrient lockout in that plant. Run this test and this test to confirm it, and then do this. And that kind of certainty is powerful because you go from, I don't know what's going on with this plant to, I've got a plan of action I can execute with tests that'll confirm if it's right and what to do after that if that bears out.
Yep.
Can I just kind of expand that a little bit? Because you think about it, like literally you will have, like, I don't think people kind of get the kind of significance of just being able to take a photograph of a plant, you circle it. I mean, it's not zoomed in, circle, what's wrong with my plant? And you get an answer. And it says, well, it looks like X, Y, and Z. This is what you should, and it's broken down. It looks like this is going on. This is how to remediate it. And that's, you know, so that's basically like, it's unbelievable. Like just going through some of the examples and pictures of what the information that's spit out from that picture, it's just mind blowing. So if you have a question that you say, what's wrong with my plant? You throw it up on, nothing against anyone, but you throw it up on Reddit, your answer is not deemed important enough. Oh, well, that's just, you know, it's mold, dummy. You should know that. And they won't answer your question and it won't get remediated and you're in limbo. Whereas you literally go right there, hey, what's wrong with my plant? Bang, keep it moving, you know? And if you have the paid service, it remembers, oh, well, I told them that, you know, they fed it too much here. Or so it's brilliant. I don't think people understand how just amazing it is to be able to just, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Alan. It blows my mind. So I still kind of
capabilities for other things too, like self-care or like, you know, all sorts of different things that I could think of that, you know, could use a AI enhanced, you know, essentially auditor, reviewer, somebody who you can basically can help you get to that next step, right? That you know, in a way that's predictable, you know, especially about something that you're learning technically, right? Like the applications for this could be awesome for learning how to like build furniture or how to like, you know, how to like, you know, do plumbing, how to do electric work, right? Housework that you might like be, oh shoot, I'm kind of handy, but you know, maybe I need to kind of have somebody to bounce how to do the addition that I'm building or the, you know, the, like this could, I mean, this should be something that you'll probably see in all those capacities as we continue to move forward. And I'm quite positive it's being used in a few
different my elbow and put the picture in.
Right. That's
and,
yeah.
And we hosted it on Discord for kind of the same reason Midjourney did. Sure. It's a ready platform that has a lot of bells and whistles that let us direct traffic and do things.
Well, yeah, it's agnostic, decentralized in a way, like it's easier to sort of be malleable there. You know, your data is going to be sort of safe in a way that it might not be in other places. So that makes sense.
It's a powerful tool. And part of the reason why I built it was I realized that there was kind of a gap in the technology curve. There's AI agents being built for all kinds of different applications, right? I used one this morning to calculate market analytics on the gardening market.
Sure.
You know, and the hole there is in like home gardening agriculture, right? And I've seen a couple of different companies come and go, a couple of different apps come and go. And Discord over time has really proven to be a safe haven for that material.
Right. That's right. And it's known for that. So
we've endured like where other things have come and gone.
Yes, there's a lot out there, that's for sure. All right, so let's start. Let's start from the back then. How did you always have a green thumb? When did you get your green thumb? Because obviously, I'm going to guess that the love for growing plants and planting came before the love of technology, or am I wrong?
Oh no, absolutely. I started growing cannabis when I was a teenager with my father. That's when I, first learned about it.
Sure.
Right.
There you go.
But I was a helper,
Yeah, that was me too. Yeah.
And I didn't really have the space to do it a lot in like my 20s and 30s, But then, I got back into it in a big way and started building our social media content around the gardening of the plants themselves, because it's possible to build reproducible techniques based on standard agricultural practices, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of variability out there. What I've seen over the past year and a half as people come to use the AI is that the problems they've encountered are typically derived from an unknown soil mix with unknown chemistry and or nutrients that are not specific about what's in them. Right?
Yep.
And sometimes they have variable like feed charts. Like one of the ones I bought, I'm not outing anybody, is like 2 to 3 mils of this, 4 to 6 mils of that, 1 to 3 mils of this, 2 to 3 mils of that. How are you supposed to get that right?
Yeah.
There's no indication of when to go low, when to go high, and why. And so you're basically guessing at what you're feeding your plants.
Yeah.
And that's what actually brought us to the partnership with King Solomon Nutrients.
Sure, of course.
We sought out a company that was willing to be 100% transparent about their ingredients. And so that we could feed that into our AI.
Sure.
And that's what we ended up with, is a nutrient kit that has a huge commercial footprint. King Solomon is in like 400 plus commercial agricultural operations.
Yeah, I've certainly heard of him.
He's certified in 22 states for medical cultivation.
Yep.
And he handles all of like the B2B end of it.
That makes sense.
We handle direct to consumer. And so we repacked the nutrients in a kit that makes 100 gallons of veg, 200 gallons of bloom.
Yep.
Because it's kind of like the hot dogs to hamburger situation. That's about the ratio you need for a 6-plant grow.
Okay. That makes sense.
And it's been great. Our customers love it. And people are seeing like significant yields with it, which is really cool.
Yep. Really smart collaboration, for you all to do. Makes a lot of sense, So
we lost Aaron.
We did. But
I'm back.
He's back. He magically appears not outside any longer, which I suspect is why we didn't see him for a second. Anyway, so you're back. Yeah. We were just getting into, Alan was talking about, King Solomon and why the importance of, quality nutrients, some of the
consistent results.
Correct. Which also, of course, helps the user, right? Because there's less confusion, less guessing. Right.
Let's talk about that.
Sure.
The program we've established consistently yields 1/2 to a full pound dried from an 85-day autoflower every single time.
Pretty good.
From when I first started posting my results, people on TikTok and YouTube were like, "That's impossible. That has to be a photo or you're lying." I'm like, "No, seriously."
Oh, there it is.
Autos from Royal Queen. Here's the genetics. Off you go. Here's the card that I used. You want to see like the seed box? Here you go.
Yeah.
And as I began to reproduce that, we're on cycle 3 now of this program.
Okay.
Other people have started to follow along.
Sure.
Right? They pick up the nutrients. They pick up the exhale bags. We'll touch on those in a minute.
Sure.
And they start building my soil mix. And then they follow that program. And I had a guy come to me on Discord. He's one of my subscribers. He just pulled a 1/2 pound from his first plant.
That's really good.
That's nice really, really, really good. I mean, like a lot of people do their first plant and they're lucky to yield anything.
Correct.
And he's thrilled. Right. He's got jars full of the stuff.
Yeah,
and he's like,
oh my God, let's go. Of course you're stoked about that. Again, plus I like the system. I mean, I'm not sure if this conversation will get like super duper technical, but I know it might because we're, very technical what you do, of course, but obviously, like just in terms of how the Bloom Carousel looks, what it says about kind of how you all prefer how to grow, that
Yeah,
sort of
let's
a
talk
thing.
about that.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that. Yeah.
So, all right, guys, I'm gonna show you something. I hope the camera can see me well here.
It can see pretty good. Yep.
You got a plant in a tent, right?
Yep.
And you run a trellis in there because you're doing a screen of green, right?
Yep.
How do you get to the back of the plant without reaching through it?
It's a good question.
And contaminating it and breaking
Yeah,
it.
get your hand all up in the thing.
You might try to reach over the top of it. You might try to reach around it.
Yeah.
I broke a branch that had more than 10 grams on it. It was not a good day.
It can happen. That's no good, but yeah.
And so I invented this.
Yeah.
This is a welded steel frame. It's modular and is assembled in stages. It uses click pulls like tents do.
Yeah.
So you just click it together. And it spins in place.
So that way you don't have to reach through. You don't have to reach over. It's just right there. You can get to the place where it's tough. You swim, boom, done.
Instantly.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it provides structural support to the plant.
Yep.
And when you're done,
it does. It gives it the maximum ability to grow to its best capacity.
Yeah, and for people who do, like, I've got a veg room and then I've got a flower room, they're on casters. You can just roll them across the floor.
That makes sense too.
And then when you're done, you can chop the plant up and hang it from the frame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what these two tents are right here.
Yeah, it's right there.
Those are my drying cabinets so that when the flower comes out of the 8x4, they can go right into these.
That's right. That's very cool.
And,
so you use the water tray, put the in the water tray right under it that comes with the carousel.
Yeah.
Right, there it is right there. I see it.
So the kit's the frame, 2 nets, 3 cloth pots, a 1, 3, and 5, because like if you're doing autos, you just use the 5. But if you're doing photos and you're up potting, I included those. And then the tray at the bottom. The bearing, the whole frame can hold like 300 pounds.
Wow.
You can pick a frame up with a fully loaded plant in it if you need to like pull it out of your tent.
And can I just speak to, and the reason for that is that, it's designed for people with mobility challenge folks. So if you are working on your plant and your leg gives out, your back gives out, something happens and you grab it, it's not going to come over. It will hold your weight.
Yeah. Not to mention it's mobile, to your point, for those kind of folks, right? So you're older, we're all getting older. We're all getting, it's tougher to do things. You feel those pains when you're grabbing things, etc. But you still love, what you're doing, so you want to do it, right? So yeah. It's very important to sort of build in that kind of capacity. Generally speaking, it also can save you overhead and do all sorts of fun things too if you play your cards correctly, which you guys have clearly done. And I don't know, I just love that. Like, it's really, you're making it so conducive to people to tap into home growing, which I think is wonderful.
That's our goal, man. Make gardening easy, accessible, and successful for everybody.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It definitely resonates.
And the repeatable result. I mean, we should have had a visual of just the trunk. I mean, it's like a trunk when you have those plants. It's just like, but and literally that same system yields those same results every time.
And I'll sprint through it, man. It's custom soil, which is made from cocoa and biochar, and it's fermented. So it's a living soil blend. Our nutrient kit, so you're doing a organic, right? You're doing a synthetic organic blend there. CO2 supplementation. We partnered with Garden City Fungi to bring the exhale bags to our shop. Right? Bloom carousels for care.
Yep.
How-to videos in case you have any questions, and then an AI assistant on Discord that's available 24/7.
Sure.
A catalog.
Mess it up.
A catalog of how-to. So literally, you can go back, and as I'm starting my grow, I will watch the video of how to build soil. So literally, it's Alan sitting there and going, okay, this is this much biochar, this much cocoa noir, and then literally the whole thing, and he'll show it's starting to bubble, it's alive, and so I can go on to the next video of this is what I'm doing now. So you can go back through the catalog.
I mean, it's pretty awesome, Like, it's very easy to sort of see how much care you've done. I gotta imagine that like client testimonials might be a pretty cool thing, right? Like, you get people you're talking about that guy that was, you were talking about earlier. I would imagine you could get a lot of those, a lot of people talking about how wonderful the system is or how great, it's helped them out, that sort of a thing. Boy, that's a lot of yummy user-generated content if you could get that. But like, which you, of course, can.
Alan, only plants.
Right.
Yeah.
So
to facilitate the community's enthusiasm, we created Only Plants, where you can find the thirstiest girls on the internet.
I love it. Very good.
And you know what?
Honestly, you could actually do a OnlyFans page, and it probably would be really successful.
We grabbed the domain. I just haven't done anything with it yet.
That's really interesting. You could actually, but what I'm saying is, like, you could actually do, like, people don't realize what OnlyFans really is because it's so dominated by, like, females and you know, and sexual type stuff. But there's a lot of smart people using that platform because it gives you a lot of awareness and a lot of freedom to make money and to be creative in terms of how you can do that. It actually aligns pretty well with what you are doing, to be honest.
Yeah, because I want people to celebrate their accomplishment.
Correct.
That's the thing. There's a huge turn-on cost for gardening, right?
Yes.
Like my 8x4 tent kit was like $1,800 with the lights and the fans and everything else.
Yeah.
That's not a small turn-on cost.
No, it's not accessible for your average person.
The 2x2s are cheaper, but these are still a couple $100 a piece.
Right.
Right. And so if you're going to sink $300 to $500 on growing one plant, you want to make sure that plant actually produces a yield that makes that worth it. Right?
Yes. Especially that first time. Correct.
And if you're following our program and you're able to reliably pull half a pound to a pound off that plant, then you just have to compare what the cost of 8 ounces is at your local dispo to see that you paid it off in one harvest.
And then some, yes. Not even, I mean, that's
and, you know, I foresee the average person actually probably having 2 tents like this, right? Where they're growing in one, and then, you know, 45 days later, they start the other one so that they're pulling half a pound to a pound every 45 days.
Yep.
I don't know anybody who consumes that much, so I think that's good for most people.
It's pretty good. I don't know. I give that a run, I think. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe it's shit. But anyways, yes, you're right. That's going to be very satisfactory for most human beings, I would suspect. So that's very good. I love all the attention truly given to not just educating, but making it accessible is really like the thing that I think is the most impressive, even though there's a lot of education component to it. That's really, really cool. And the AI thing is dope, but like how much effort obviously went into the engineering, the strategy, the making sure the price point's conducive, all those things. I mean, I know how hard that is. And so I don't think other people can appreciate how difficult that is to do.
And how long? And Alan, can you explain that process of where we started, and to where now, and how we've gotten, even with all the pivots. And if anyone we have the meme of Friends where they're trying to move the couch, pivot, and Ross keeps screaming. Every time we run into a problem, it's pivot. Can you speak to how we've come from start to where we are right now and the amount of time we've done that?
I'm going to sprint through some of this and we can then break down any of this you want to go back into. A lot of inventors think, oh, I've invented a thing, I'm going to make millions of dollars. Yep. It's a little more involved, y'all. You have to get that thing engineered, and then you have to test those prototypes and make sure they met the need. We actually went through 5 revisions of the Blue Carousel before we brought it to market. Thanks to Aaron here, we were able to round up a bunch of industry insiders who were able to test it and give me honest feedback about the design.
Yep.
And then we had to actually get them packaged.
Yep.
You know, that contributed to my BOM, bill of materials, y'all.
That's right.
And then we had to do our MOQ order, minimum order quantity. And we had to bring those in overseas and pay the tariffs and the shipping. And then we had to land them. We chose TikTok to actually land our product and get it promoted, start to get the sales in, you know, start to get consumer feedback, get them out to affiliates. And we're now right at a point where we're starting to see traction, where the reputation of the hardware is starting to precede itself.
Yep.
Where people are hitting our shop and checking it out without even like seeing some of our advertising.
That's good.
And what they're seeing, and I'll just hand it right back over, and what they're seeing, and it's growing, is a suite of products. So it's, you know, Rooted Intellect, but then, you know, we've got obviously King Solomon's Nutrients. They want exhale bags, and it's going to grow from there, where we find, you know, business development opportunities of people who literally have the same are on the same page and have the same mission of making gardening and you know, home growing easy for the you know, the novice.
Yep.
And they've got, great products that would be, so they come to the store and say, oh, well, you've got nutrients and you've got, so Alan, I'll hand it back over, bud.
Yeah, that's actually my goal, is to have all of the things that I'm demonstrating in what we call the Grow Talk Lab available to the consumer directly, without having to go to any other shop or any other place.
Yep.
And so we drive traffic now to our website, rootedintellect.com.
Yep.
We're doing a coupon for all y'all, Beard 15. You can check that out.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It's 15% off your first order on our website. No minimum, no maximum, one use only. Knock yourselves out.
What was that code again?
Beard 15.
Yeah, Beard 15. Very nice. So
15.
thank you. And yeah, Beard 15 will get you a nice discount at Rooted Intellect.
And we'll be running that promotion on TikTok as well. They'll both time to the launch of this episode, so that people on either platform take advantage.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, you got to be on TikTok, which is a whole interesting conversation we could get into, because as you all know, a lot of cannabis people resist TikTok. I say don't do that. There is a way to tap into that large, growing, thriving, and very engaged community, no matter who you are. And as I've started to see, and as I've seen over the last couple of years, especially, people are taking me up on that piece of advice.
Alan, can you speak to that? How you get around that, that hurdle of you can't show and.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's been a long process for me to get to about 10,500 followers. The Grow Talk community, that was hundreds of thousands of people, so we've only reached a small percentage of the actual gardeners on TikTok. For general gardeners,
Grow Talk is like basically a segment of people that really apply their trade on TikTok and show off and talk about all sorts of things about growing and gardening and community and how we do it and process and all those things. Just like any other channel might have a subsect of a group that kind of gets into something and then gets notarized for it, right? Most notably, and the reason this is on top of my head, I think the new there's Mom Talk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, it's a way that there can be this subsect of a community within TikTok that talks about a certain theme. And then if you can tap into that, right, there's a lot of hashtags and different things around that. And if that is your kind of audience, you do want to tap into those things, right? Because you want to be part of that larger discussion, and you want to get on the radar of all those people because they're going to be engaged and interested in what you do.
Exactly. So the language you choose is really important.
Yes.
Because I have to share my gardening knowledge. I'm a biologist by education.
Sure.
And so some of the practices I bring in are novel compared to just traditional agriculture. But I explain everything I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right. So even though it's a different path, it's a trailblazed effort, it's not without explanation.
Right. And not without validation or without some logic behind it.
And also, and hold on, and can I just add, and also just freely giving the information away.
Yep.
Yeah, like my soil mix. There's a reason why, to tie all the products together, the soil mix recipe is published. We're going to make it. I'm talking to the Butthead Soil Company about actually making our soil ahead to deliver direct to consumers.
Sure.
But in the meantime, we publish the recipe because I want everybody to have reproducible results. If we take the variability of dirt out of the equation and the variability of nutrients out of the equation, then the only variables are the genetics you're using and the environment they're growing in. And those are really easy to dial in.
Oh, yeah.
And, that's my goal, is to get everybody on the same page. I don't care if from there they go into deep water culture, or they do pure cocoa builds, or they do nothing but organic living soil, because by then they know what they're doing.
Of course. So
right.
You feel like you've trained them appropriately. I'm good. Please go forth and grow as many large plants as you would.
And also we're able to load that information in. So the AI knows that we're using, King Solomon. They know the soil blend. So the more dialed in it is, then it just,
Right, well, because it's preloaded with the full chemistry of the nutrient kit, and the full microbiology and profile and formulation of the soil. So if you start your thing with, I'm using our soil blend and our nutrients, and this is what I'm seeing, you can already just include all that information and go, okay, now I can look at your soil chemistry in detail. And that's one of the real strengths of AI, is being able to process a large amount of information at once.
Yes.
And then it can go, oh, you have that purple streak because you have a potassium deficiency. You have a potassium deficiency because your pH is too high, your salinity is too high. So based on this, I'm going to tell you to go do a soil slurry test, where you take a core sample of the soil and you run some water through it, and then you pH and electroconductivity test it. And then the data you're going to give me back is going to confirm that that's correct. And then I'm going to guide you through a flushing and reset protocol.
Yep.
And you don't lose your whole plant. You don't, it's real time.
Yep. You can rescue it. If you're veering off course, you can adjust, pivot, if you will, very quickly. So, it's interesting. You bring up, like making sure that this information's out there for free, right? That's what we do. That's what this is, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Other people tend to, I think short term when it comes to media, especially, or they want to cut corners because they, don't really appreciate the kind of knowledge of how to like generate leads through user generated content or through actually providing a certain level of knowledge, right? So some people want to like charge for stuff like this. Makes no sense to me. I'd like to charge for the environment or helping you basically create like you guys have, right? So there's a parallel. My point is I'm making between, how to actually go about your business, regardless if you are a media company or a product line or a home grow kit. There are ways to utilize content. To your point, and you guys are fantastic example of this, especially TikTok, right? Because that's one that a lot of cannabis people at least resist or don't know how to apply the trade in, so they don't mess with it, right? Going in full force and basically sort of carving out your niche and continuing to grow that way, that's going to serve a lot of long-term benefit, and it's already bringing you benefit today. And so, and ample benefit actually. And so, I think it's really smart to put out content that people can truly learn from for free.
Yeah.
Even though it's not really free.
Well, it is. I'm really specific about my monetization. I don't get monetization money from like the channels that I broadcast on.
Right.
We make money selling our products. We are a direct-to-consumer product company.
So you build content to bring attention to the fact that your company does that, and people go to the site and hopefully buy some stuff. That's right.
And the other revenue stream for us is subscriptions through our Discord.
That makes a lot of sense. I would imagine you have packages too eventually, or already perhaps. I'm sorry, I haven't looked.
We're working on that. That's actually one of the things you talk about, challenges for small business. TikTok has been kind of a mixed bag.
Sure.
From the logistics side of things.
That makes sense. And I've heard that.
Like I can only send samples to affiliates that are registered. I can't send samples outside the network. I can't ship product to people who aren't buying it through TikTok. Right. So it creates this, like, you have to be a TikTok person in order to see the advertising, in order to buy the products at all.
Yeah.
Right. And they talk about the valley of despair. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, where new companies, startups, they go through this lull where you've gained traction. That's where we're at. Our products sell. Consumers like them. Right. But we're not at the velocity we need to be yet.
Yep.
And it's the decisions you make in those moments that dictate whether or not your startup succeeds or fails.
Yes.
And so we made the decision this month actually to move our inventory to ShipUp.
Okay.
Because they enable worldwide fulfillment and bundling of products. So like if I localize some nutrient kits and I localize some exhale bags, now I can bundle together a Bloom Carousel and a nutrient
provide a bit of a discount for bulk purchase or whatever, and off you go.
It enables me to do like B2B shipments. We've had some grow houses ask about Bloom Carousels for their breeding rooms.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense too. I gotta imagine that's the next level is people who are, like, let's graduate to, well, I do like the engineering. So, I mean, it doesn't just have to be for home grow, right? Can't I buy 50 of these and put them in
for your other plants in your grows?
That's right. Why wouldn't you? So that's makes sense in terms of a logical evolution of the company.
And with the nets that we have, you're able to self-trellis them and move them around. But go ahead.
Right. Exactly. Like, so in a commercial garden, all the ones I've seen, some of them posted in our Discord, you've got all the plants and you have a sheet of netting, right?
Yeah.
What happens when you need to pull one of those plants because it's got a problem, a communicable problem like powdery mildew or spider mites, right? To get it out of that trellis is darn near impossible without creating a mess, right? Now, conceptually, imagine a row of Bloom Carousels, right? And you can spin and inspect every single one, every single deck. So your handlers aren't going to miss emerging problems. And when they need to address a problem, they don't have to reach through the plant to get it. So there's less risk of breaking the plant and losing biomass. And if they have to pull that plant because it's really bad, they can grab it by the frame, pull it out, and roll it out of the room. Like bag it so it can't communicate anything and roll it away. You know? Yeah. I did think about this end of it when I was designing the product because I wanted it to be useful on multiple levels.
Yeah.
It's useful for like wheelchair bound folks. People who have mobility issues have to sit and garden, right? Yep. It's useful for gardeners like me who want to have the access and the maintenance and the care. And then on the professional level as well.
Yeah. I could very much. I've been to a lot of grows, indoor, outdoor. I've been to a lot of facilities in my day, just like you two have. You know,
and one of the things that, you know, kind of a tagline that's always stuck in my head is that you can't fix what you can't see.
Exactly.
You can't access it. How do you? And if you can't access it, like in, you know, soon, not real time, but as soon as you can, it just spreads.
Yeah.
Allen, you know the first we talk about just rust mold in the very first grow of being able to, and also how your CO2 bag saved your harvest. But go ahead.
So I don't know if you're familiar with rust mold. It appears as little pock marks underneath the leaves.
Okay.
And the way you can tell whether a plant has a localized or systemic infection is you cull those leaves, right?
Yeah.
If you see it again, it's spreading internally through the plant.
Okay.
Right? And it went from a couple of leaves to a lot of leaves, and I bagged it and pulled it. It was dead 24 hours later.
Yeah.
The fungus killed it outright.
Sure.
If I hadn't caught it, inspecting all my plants every day with a bloom carousel, it would have wiped out the entire garden.
That's right.
Right? And so the carousel is designed to serve a couple of functions there. It gives you access to the plant so that you can inspect it thoroughly every day. And it's strong enough that you can pull a fully flowering plant with wet dirt right out of your tent.
300 pounds.
So you don't have to leave that in there. You know, you can literally just grab a trash bag, tie it over the top of the thing, grab the frame and pull it out. No contamination risk. You're done. Problem solved.
Pretty interesting. Very good. You know, I mean, that's just really, really smart engineering, you know, really good foresight, very good strategy, you know, like it's just smart.
And you can use it without the casters, you know, if you just want to be able to spin it. You put the casters on if you want to, you got it under your stairs or you whatever, you can roll it around, but you can just use it still with the spinning without the casters. So it could literally be sitting up on, you know, cultivation tables and benches. So, yeah.
And it's compatible with drip irrigation and deep water culture. So the frame itself, you can just wrap the pole, you can just wrap the hose around the backside.
Yeah.
What I do, right? So you got your plant, you run the hose around the back so that you can turn it 180 degrees each direction.
And it'll get even water.
Right. Well, what it means is that you can water your plant with something that's durable, like you've got the 50-gallon tank. You're doing like bottom watering with like auto pots, right?
Yeah.
Because that's doing drip irrigation, not, you know, literally he has the tubing running in and.
Right. But then you can still spin the carousel around despite the fact that something is tied to the plant.
Sure. That is interesting and good. And I would imagine healthier for the plant and it to grow.
Plants don't like being moved. They don't like being stressed. And like, if you can spin a plant around without actually disturbing it.
Yeah.
Then you're really maximizing its care because you're looking at everything. You're defoliating whatever's necessary, but you're not disturbing it.
No, you're not bothering it or messing with it to a point where it could be counterproductive where you're trying to help one thing and then you run into two other problems because you didn't do helping the one thing right.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Which is a big mess that you get into and all sorts of scientific stuff now that I think about it and research.
Because we really not set it and forget it, but no, we really want you to have kind of the less amount of, you know, interactions and messing with it that you know need to.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, you can also avoid touching it and stuff because you can take pictures and here's my AI Discord and I'm going to upload this and put some prompts in what I'm seeing and, you know, and get some advice. And then hopefully I'm going to get those 2, 3, 4 steps or whatever it would be to take care of the next thing. And it's going to be done in an optimized way to protect the plant and to make it sure that it can grow. So I'm pretty covered that way, right? If I just kind of continue to put the inputs in the way that I'm supposed to or highlight the issues as they arise, then I'm avoiding interaction with the plant, which is a good thing, right? Because the more you mess with it, the more it can screw up.
Yeah, cross-contamination is a term that you'll hear out of biology, right?
Yes.
people will come to my Discord and they're like, how did I get spider mites? How did I get powdery mold? And I hate to tell them the vector was probably them.
Yeah, it
Right?
usually is. Like we have a
Because
whole bunch
people
of
like they're
crap
walking in their
that's not
clothes.
good for plants. So
Right,
you know,
like they'll walk
just
their
like
dogs.
it's not good. You know,
They don't care that their dog like rummaged through powdery mildew or something, right?
Right.
And then they
No,
go right in and
like,
handle their plants, and they're like, "Oh,
well, you're
now I
not
have
thinking
powdery
about it either.
mildew."
You're like, oh, I took a shower today. I'm clean. I'm good, right? No, you're not. You know, even one little speck of dirt on your shit can fuck up the whole plant. You know what I mean? So yes, you got to be super careful. Why do you think of these? You ever been to a proper grow? You're not gonna see too many bare skin anywhere.
Yeah,
You know, you're completely covered. There's CGMP certificate. Rules and regulations. So yes, you have to really think about like, oh, well, in an industrial situation, they're like no one touches nothing. You know, not ever usually.
because you
right?
can't like the regulations around the percentage of bacterias and molds and things that can be found within an entire garden are super strict because we consume these materials directly, right?
Yeah,
they can't let the garden get contaminated.
Yeah, we don't know, but we're sitting there infecting all sorts of stuff with our crusty dustiness. You know, you got to be careful out there.
So I got as we're reaching the home stretch of our what are there any points, Alan, that you think we need to address? Something that you haven't got to touch upon that's important.
Let's talk about the market economics for the business folks.
Speak to our company, just why we're doing it the way that we're doing it. Just the.
We'll talk about that and some market analytics for people.
Sure.
How do I put this? I have worked for multiple startups, and I've left my mark on the vape industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I ran into the same problem that a lot of other inventors have, which is that you don't own the work you do for hire, right?
I know. Yeah.
That work is owned by the people who hired you. Same thing like in a university. If you come up with a patent, you don't own that.
Nope.
Right. And I wanted to change that. So I designed the Bloom Carousel myself in my free time, sourced it myself, brought it to market, And as I was doing that, I started forming the relationships that would end up being the founding team, right?
Yep.
So we have Aaron, who has done business development and all of our photography and print advertising and stuff, right?
Yep.
And Joseph, who has written the AI construct, right?
Yep.
And we've all been working on this for I think a year and a half now as a startup company without paying ourselves at all.
Yep.
Every dollar that we've earned has been plowed back into marketing and sourcing new products. And I think people who go down this path don't realize that that's what you're getting into.
Yeah, right? They don't.
And then the bigger picture, the total addressable market for our products is roughly 4 million users currently. That puts a cap, like for our nutrient kits, we see an annual recurring revenue of about $300 per customer.
Yeah.
Right. Just on nutrient kits and exhale bags.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which means we're looking at like 1.2 billion right there.
Yep.
We were to capture the entire market.
Right? Yes, that's if it doesn't even increase, which it will. But yeah.
And it's scheduled to get bigger over the next 5 years.
That's what I mean. It will grow.
Yeah. And so we're looking at bringing the rest of the products to market over the next 2 years so that we provide the grow tent and the carousel and the nutrients and the soil mix.
That's right.
Everything but the seeds, likely, because they contain their own regulatory hurdles.
Sure.
Those would go in a separate store, but I can just partner with the seed companies.
Yes, and people are going to want to do all sorts of different types of, seeds. Mm-hmm. That's not really, I get why that's, we're cool. Like you go find your seeds from these. You can always recommend companies. I'm sure they have preferred providers or something.
Mm-hmm. And I'm after this because the feedback I get from the community is that grow tents suck.
Yeah.
The equipment is not well engineered. And it's because it's designed by people who aren't allowed to grow weed.
Yes.
You're not allowed to grow weed in China.
Nope. So how would you know how to engineer it to the ultimate capacity? You might not, right? So, I think that's really important to sort of note is, make sure that you know who you're buying from. And that doesn't have to do with anything. Like, there's plenty of great products you can buy that are made in China and it's all gravy. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is, why would you, right? It's a sort of that whole thing is like, why would you take advice from somebody who hasn't done this?
Right.
Exactly. And that's why I make sure to demonstrate everything I'm doing, why I'm doing it, the results of the doing, and then I make available all the products that you need to replicate my results. Because the goal is ultimately for the end users watching my content to have a path that gets them to a half pound to a pound yield.
Yeah, that makes sense,
And we deliberately keep it simple. There are lots of meters and lots of things that you can add, bells and whistles and power meters, pH meters, all these things. And we keep it really simple. We recommend test strips, right? Because test strips don't fall out of calibration.
That's right.
And we drive the program down to as simple a level as possible while also introducing the technical element through Discord, right?
Yeah.
Because that shores up any missing information.
Right. You're learning. That's where you're learning, for the most part. And it's right there for you to learn at your own pace, that's a really cool thing too, and it'll adjust to your learning style.
And just in the name, rooted intellect, that speaks to smart growing.
Yep.
And that
makes sense. Yeah. Rooted intellect. Okay. Speaking of which, thank you so much, Alan. Man, we could add 4 different episodes with you. We could have gone into all sorts of different places, but I really, really thank you for your time. Please let everybody know where they can see you and Rooted Intellect, and what's the easiest way to tap into everything going on. Although we've talked about it a few times, let's reiterate, Shep.
Right on. So for products, you can go to rootedintellect.com. If you need help, you can come to the Rooted Intellect Discord. If you want to see how-to videos, come to the Rooted Intellect TikTok. And if you want to see actual garden videos, come to the Rooted Intellect YouTube.
There you go. Very good. Alan, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. Aaron, any last words before we say goodbye?
Yes, coupon code Beard15. Don't forget that. No, it was a pleasure to be able to have my partner and very, very good friend on and just explain to folks, because I think it doesn't translate sometimes, but just to have from the man himself telling you what we're all about was very helpful. So I appreciate it, and it was a pleasure to bring our world to everybody else.
Yes, thank you so much, Alan, for being on. We really, really appreciate you being on the Beard Bros Media Network and on Some Guys Talking. It was really great to speak with you today. We might have to have you on again, because there's a lot of stuff that we just scratched the surface on that I'd love to dive more into. So thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to doing it again soon. And everybody, go check out rootedintellect.com right now, and go check them out on their YouTube channel, on their Discord, and on TikTok especially. So rock and roll, everybody. Thank you very much. We appreciate you very much.
Thanks for having me on. Let's do it again soon.
Indeed. Thank you.
Great job, bud.